Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I've got Landon McQuestion from Balfour Beatty with me here today. Landon, thanks so much for joining us. We're going to be talking a little bit about why you need standards in Precon and how Landon did that with a team that's kind of scattered across a lot of offices. So Landon, if you don't mind, could you give us just a little bit of background about yourself and your relationship with BECTEC?
Sure. Good morning. So my name is Landon McQuestion. I'm the Director of Pre-Construction Estimating for the California division of Balfour Beatty. I've been estimating for about 15 years now, and I've been in the industry for about 20 years. My relationship started with Beck 5 years ago. We decided to roll a new software out nationwide for Balfour Beatty, and I was part of the implementation team that started early. We spent about 1.5 years developing a rollout plan with Beck, going to their office a lot, and just started a great relationship there, and then rolled it out about 3.5 years ago. And I've stayed very close with Beck since then, and it's been a great relationship.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. So without further ado, let's kind of jump into this. So you talked about rolling out, this new software, DESTINI Estimator, to your team. Can you talk a little bit about, why your team felt the need to move into a platform that could kind of enable a more standardized way of handling Precon efforts, and how did you prepare to start rolling out that training, considering that you had so many on your team and not all necessarily in the same place?
So kind of two different efforts happened. One of them was rolling out back and kind of standardizing back to the whole nation. I think I'd like to focus more on what we did here in California, because we were each one of our offices nationwide, each one of our divisions has kind of a different market that they go after. So they do have variances on how they approach work and how they use the software and what their standard operating procedure looks like. So here in California, we really wanted to streamline ours because a lot of our clients have multiple projects. So we'll have one school district that we'll have 15 projects with over the years. We really wanted all of those estimates and all of our products to look exactly the same to them, to have a really nice continuity with them. So that was kind of the first reason that we wanted to do it. We were seeing that depending on which office produced it, because we have 6 offices here in California, the product could look different, could feel different, could have different line items in it, and that could be confusing for owners because we're very collaborative. So if we have a project here in San Diego or a client here in San Diego, someone in LA may be working on it, someone in Riverside may be working. It's not just localized to San Diego. So we really wanted to have just a standardized a product. This also flowed into really helping junior estimators and just helping the whole collaborative approach to estimating, which really rolled out when Teams Estimator rolled out. So we'll have up to 10 people in the same estimate. And if everybody knows how to do it the same way and everybody has the same standard operating procedure, it made it a lot cleaner. What we used to run into is one chief estimator would like it done one way, one senior estimator would like it done another way, and the junior estimators who were doing all the takeoff and kind of the grunt work would have to learn it 6 or 7 different ways based on how each person liked it done. So we've kind of gone past that, where the junior estimators are taught it one way, and that's how they work, no matter who they're working for. One of the other big reasons we wanted to standardize here is historical cost. If we have every estimate has the same line items in it, we can drill our historical cost down to actual line items. So it's not just master format or unit format. We can drill it down to, if let's say every estimate has the exact same line item for a 3060 door, we can look across 50 estimates and see exactly what the average price is for that. So those are the main reasons we wanted to roll it out. How do we prepare? We had a chief estimator here in California who was just amazing in really pushing it through. It all started with our database, streamlining our database, getting it exactly the way we wanted it, so no one was having to add line items to it, no one was having to remove line items to it, and then it came down to writing SOPs so everybody knew exactly how to approach each task.
That's amazing. That's really incredible. I feel like you touched on this a little bit. You talked about how, so you had a lot of senior estimators who they all estimated their certain way, and that was kind of creating some issues between, junior estimators having to learn, like you said, multiple different ways to estimate. So now that you have them learning a standardized way. So, have you run into challenges with people maybe not necessarily like wanting to adopt a different way? Has that been a challenge? And if not, what were some of the obstacles that you encountered trying to kind of standardize across the board?
Yeah, it's always a challenge. I think it's getting buy-in from the early stages of it, not just rolling something out. It's getting everybody to come together and come to a consensus on what that standard operating procedure looks like, what that database looks like. It takes time, we really want to get everyone's buy-in on it. And then you have to give it time to roll out. You can't just flip the switch and then everything changes. It probably took us a year to make the move to a common standard operating procedure from start to finish. But it wasn't too hard of a process, especially with the right tools. Like we said, with Beck, with the team estimator, and it even happened over COVID, or actually it happened we rolled this out just before COVID, and it was such a huge help when here in California, all our offices completely closed. So we were all working remotely for a year. And it was just a gigantic help having everyone doing exactly the same and using Teams Estimator. We had some huge projects come in during that time. And, we'd have 10, 15 people working on the same estimate. Everyone knew exactly what they were supposed to do.
Wow, that's awesome. Obviously you mentioned that Teams estimating that was a pretty huge help in making that happen. What were some of the other resources that helped you guys handle this change, especially with COVID going on and everything?
Constant collaboration. For us, it was Microsoft Teams. We have for our division, we have a channel that's California estimating channel, and then we have sub channels in there where we have each software. So there's one for Beck, and then there's subs within that where it's like where we store everything from the instruction manuals to videos we've made to templates. We use it for chat. It was definitely a lifesaver when it came to working remote.
Yeah, I definitely feel that Teams is the same way for us. It's super intuitive, and you're able to really collaborate on projects so much more easily with that kind of platform. Since you guys have rolled out a more unified way of estimating, what are some of the benefits that you've seen? And maybe looking a little bit further out, what are some of the standards that maybe you want to see introduced to the industry on a broader scale?
I'd say the two things that come to mind of the biggest advantages are the ease of training. We hired quite a few new people over the past year, and training them, even remotely training them, was really easy because all of the operations were there. How it was done was supposed to be there instead of it used to kind of be done ad hoc. It was just the senior estimator would get given a junior estimator and he'd teach them how he liked doing it. Now there's this program that we've all come up with. So no matter who he's working for, he's getting trained in the same way. So they're actually learning a lot faster. The other thing that comes to mind is, like I mentioned, the historical cost. We've rolled out the Power BI dashboard for our division using Teams Estimator, and that's just a huge resource for us. And the more standardized your estimates are, the more valuable that information is, the more usable that information is. If every estimate's a little different, the historical cost is next to useless. So those are the two biggest things that come to my mind of the advantages. What I'd like to see in the future, this was an easy question to ask or answer, standardizing 3D models. If we can get architects to buy in on what we need when it comes to 3D models and how we use them, that would completely change the industry in my mind.
Wow, can you maybe like elaborate a little bit more? Like what would be some of the changes that would happen as a result of that increased communication between the two?
Yeah, every model we get we do a lot of model-based estimating here in California, and every model we get is different. because every architect approaches it different. So their structure tree, how their naming conventions, how they put it together, their level of detail, they're all different. So you have to spend some time getting used to that model, building new whitelists, building, all the connections to be able to use that model, and it wastes a ton of time. And right now, we're probably, most models, we can't use more than 60, 70% of the information in the model because the rest isn't usable, it isn't drafted right, isn't named right. If we could get all models on board with like a master format, how we write specs, how all specs are written. If a model was structured in the same way, it can make it so we could pull 100% of our quantities out of it.
Wow, that's incredible. I didn't realize like the scope of that. I mean, not being able to use that much of the model, that's pretty wild. One last thing before we hop off here, and you spoke to it a little bit. You're talking a lot about historical costs, being able to go in at a really granular level. I don't know how much you'll be able to speak to this, but have you guys been able to do more with that level of detail? What I mean by that is, have you been able to do more analysis, like for the future, for future projects that you're about to take on? I don't know if does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. We used it. I mean, for me, I use the Power BI when it comes to informing clients before they're going to go get bonds or before they're going. So we do all public works here in California. So we do work for a lot of school districts and cities, and especially the school districts have to go out for bonds. So they're always very interested in how much they should put out for this bond. So they'll ask, how much is a 2-story classroom building going for right now? Or how much is a stadium, in 2 years? How much should I plan on spending in 2 years for that? And I think using the historical cost data, we can inform them a lot better and a lot faster.
That's really awesome. Awesome. Thanks for going more in depth on that. Landon, this has been a great conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to, maybe say to the audience, to those that maybe have not standardized their pre-con yet, are thinking about it, are thinking about undertaking that task? Any advice that you would give them?
Like I said, I think one of the most important things you can do is get the entire team's input and get that early, and collaborate early with everyone, and make sure everybody's voice is heard.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thanks again for being here with us, Landon. To everyone on the line, I just want to let you guys know that there will be a recording of this available to you. And even if you have people on your team that didn't attend the live event, they can absolutely still see this this webinar. Also, do want to remind you guys, we have another webinar coming up on June 30th, 10 a.m. We're going to be looking at comparisons in Power BI, so definitely make sure to go ahead and register for that. I want to thank you guys again for being here with us today. Thank you, Landon, and we'll see you next time.